Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rachel Unpack podcast. I am your host, Rachel Medina, and in this special segment that is available to view in the SheEO platform, I actually have my co-host, Delia Monarch, who we co-host a relationship show together. It has been so much fun. We're longtime friends as well, kind of started off in business-ish sort of, and It really has evolved. It's been such a blessing and an honor to be able to create content with her. And on that side of the fence, Delia, welcome to the Rachel Unpack podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor, by the way, not only to work with you on the side of you with the podcast, but the fact that you're bringing me on to share messages with your audience. Thank you.
Yes. So tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into sort of unpacking the journey and all that fun stuff.
Oh, of course. So I am a mama bear of two. I'm also in the financial services sector. I went to interior design school and studied interior design and, got myself in certain projects. Way before that, I also co-owned a staffing agency where we would staff employees from anywhere between 300 up to 750 employees at any given week. So I did, sales and I locked contracts with different companies to use us exclusively. Currently, again, I'm in the financial service sector and kind of, embarking in that. And I've also embarked in, certain real estate transactions, investments, and things like that. And then, of course, I co-host the You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast with Rachel.
Yes. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about what it is like to actually start a podcast, especially if you are a woman who is an omnipreneur. You might have a full-time job. You might have a side gig. You might have 4 kids and still wanting to go all in on your dreams of creating your own show. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. And as many of you know, I started the Rachel Unpack podcast in 2019, and that really gave me a sort of 1-year runway to figuring a lot of things out, and still not figuring things out, still trying to go, oh my God, what is this? When I entered into a content creation, partnership with Delia to start a relationship show. And the only thing is that I had a little bit of runway. Like I said, I had some touchstone, some ability to go, oh, you know what? I did this before, but when I did this, it worked better. And so that really kind of, I think, helped us out in the very beginning. But then from this point forward, it's all been a real learning journey that we're both learning at the same time on, and that I've also been able to learn for Rachel Unpacked. So I'm going to get into this here. Starting a podcast, what has it been like for you?
Well, for me, I think that it's been pretty much an exciting journey of getting to know a little bit about myself and hearing myself give advice on certain things that, we as people, we evolve, and maybe the things that we gave advice on changed. Maybe you don't really think that is really the way it should be, but it's really been very interesting. I think that, with having a podcast, it allows you to do more research, get a better understanding on, what other people are talking about, and really put your perspective out there. And it's evergreen and it lives on the web forever. And I think that that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it could be it could be beauty, or it could be cringy. I know that for me personally, I look at my episode 1, season 1 of Rachel Unpacked, and I'm like, and I made a commitment to myself not to delete it, because I knew at some point in this journey, I was going to be somewhat of an example to other women who would be considering even doing any of this. And so when I partnered up with Delia, one of the things that I sent her was, we did about 10 episodes together, and I sent her Joe Rogan's episode 1. I had to go through like 5,000 pieces of content. I went on YouTube and I was able to find episode 1, and I sent it to her. And I said, I just want you to know, like, it's a hot mess. And what it starts off as being is not ever what it ends up being.
That's so true. I look back to the first episode that you and I did, and we talked about it. And, I remember you saying, you do it, you're cheering me on. That's who you are. You're that type of person. That's like, you can do it. It's go for it. And I was like, no, but I just feel that it's so important that you come on this project with me. So we get on this project. I've never been really on camera, besides me doing cringy Instagram videos of my family. And the whole time I'm just like staring at you, like waiting for you to give me the cue, because you did have the 1 year runway and I'm completely new at this. I'm a little self-conscious and you can see it. And I'm just looking for you to like fill in the blanks. And there's a moment there where I understood that there is no need for the filler words of the and like. It's okay if there is moments of pause. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But I feel like when we first started, I wanted no room for silence at all. So it's been a learning experience. Absolutely learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get into some of the tips, and one of them is, get okay with the dead air. It is uncomfortable, and especially if you're even speaking by yourself. So, really quickly, I want the audience to understand, because there are women watching that are going to be watching this inside of the SheEO platform, that are going to be looking at this as somewhat of a mastermind, piece of content that makes them maybe explore whether or not they should be doing podcasting. So I will say, for sure, first and foremost, decide, is it a solo cast, or is there multiple people on the cast? And with doing the solo cast with Rachel Unpacked, it was cringy for myself, in the sense of like, I'm just having to talk to myself the whole time. So that was a little tough, and it's hard to get perspective and things like that until way later, when people engage with the content. And then doing it with Delia, that was my first time ever doing that, right? So then doing You Deserve Fresh Lettuce with Delia was interesting, because she would pause, or she would wait, kind of just sit there. That's dead air. And because I come from media, I'm like, dead air is a no. So then I'm like, all right, so I just kept talking until she would jump in. And I call it, it's like double Dutch rope, right? When you're jump roping, like double Dutch, and it's almost like the person's like waiting to go, okay, where do I jump in? And I finally said, interrupt me. Like, when you're ready, just start interrupting me. Like, who cares? Like, just interrupt, and we'll just go. But now it's amazing.
Now it's amazing. Recently I've been on different social media platforms, and in the social media platforms that I've been seeing, it's this gentleman that says, everyone has a book in them. And there's a part of me that's like, yeah, so true. But I believe that with podcasting, it is literally that, with the exception of it being in a book. So it is everyone has a message. Everyone has something to share to the world. Everyone has a life experience that they went through that can teach other people, the journey of whatever it is. Yeah. And so when I heard that, I kind of correlated it with podcasting, because I'm like, it's kind of similar to that. Like, everyone has like a podcast in them.
They really do. And, getting really, drilling down on the SheEO platform, and really trying to decide what we want the community to look like and feel like. And we want to give you ladies that are in the platform, and you might be listening to Rachel Unpacked going, okay, I'm not in there yet. Really, the main mission is to really give you guys an overview of what is available, to sort of say, hey, here's these things you might have been thinking about doing. Here's an overview from women that are doing it and succeeding in it, or they did that and they hit a wall, but this is how they overcame it. And so we're giving you the overview so that you can kind of try it on in your mind of like, do I have the bandwidth to do this? Do I have enough ideas or talking points to do this? And do I feel confident enough to do this? And so every bit of information that we're putting in the masterminds, that is the goal, is for you to be able to get sort of a 40-minute overview of like, oh, and hopefully walk away feeling like, if they can do it, I can do it. And then obviously we follow up. We're going to be following up with courses of the actual how. This is how, I was able to do this, or Denise was able to do that, or we were able to do whatever. So for this conversation, I want to touch on a few really key points, and that is confidence. You touched on it just a little bit here, but let's really get into the confidence aspect, not only the voices in our heads, but the ones around us.
Yeah. I definitely think that you have to let go of what you think of yourself and let go of what you think you said and let go of maybe you didn't make a point or, I love going on tangents. I'm very open about that. And maybe you didn't finish a thought. And so then you're like, oh, that didn't make sense, because sometimes, you'll replay it and you just got to let it go and just say, is what it is. I said what I said. I showed up the way I did. And I think it's literally like, I think that these last few days, it's been this self-talk, it's whatever you self-talk to yourself. Cause I think there's no greater evil or no greater God than the way that you speak to yourself. If you say you really sucked, you didn't really, give a message, you really didn't do this, then you really didn't, because that's what you're telling yourself. If you're just like, hey, you did your best, you went out there, maybe you faltered a little bit here or there. It's okay. We're going to correct it. Moving forward, we're doing it like this. Then it's that conversation you have with yourself. So it's like what you say sometimes. And I've heard you say, if you said you did it, you didn't. If you say you did, you did. So it's the same thing. And confidence, I think, comes with time and getting comfortable with saying, oh, well, it is what it is. Just move on. And
yeah. So I have this rock, right, that I have on my desk, and I don't know who did the quote, but it says, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're absolutely right. And I know for me, with my organizations and the different companies that I've led at, whenever I have teams in front of me, I always make sure they understand done is better than perfect, but we're not going to half-ass anything. And so, in this process, you have to understand done is better than perfect. You're never going to edit it to a T. And by the way, you shouldn't even be so focused on editing too much, besides clip the front, clip the back. If there was a weird coughing fit in the middle, take it out and just let it be raw when it comes to podcasting, because the magic of podcasting is that you are in their ears. You are right here. It's like you're sitting right next to them, whispering in their ear. And you're so embedded in their mind. They're imagining you and everything. And they want to feel like they're listening in on a conversation. So at the end of the day, that's really the magic and the beauty of podcasting. So don't be so worried about being perfect. You mentioned likes and ums. I'm the queen of on camera. I'm playing with my hair like this the whole time. I'm a fidgeter. I like, and so there's software that can get rid of it. And you know what? I opt not to use it, because at the end of the day, this is how I communicate if I'm sitting with my girlfriend, right? And having a conversation. If I'm sitting with you and we're just having coffee, this is what it sounds like to be real. And so don't be afraid to be authentic and comfortable and flawed, because let me tell you something, the more authentic and flawed or relatable or whatever, they feel like they know you. They feel like they can trust what you're saying now. And they feel like they're a part of this conversation, like they're in the room enjoying it.
That's true. I think it's like anything. I think that when you sit before a friend, a sibling, it's like they're joining in the conversation and they could agree with most things, like, oh, I do that sometimes, or yeah, that's so true. Or, you know what, I never thought about it that way, but that makes sense. And so I think that, scripted TV is not the thing. So it's like very, where you think that you have to sit upright and do this and say these things and be politically correct. And, and I'm not saying to go offend everyone, but if this is how you feel and you're passionate about what you're saying, then say it.
Yes.
Just go and don't be so methodical of whether or not you did it right or you didn't do it right, or you should have said this, or just let it go. You said what you said and move on.
So one of the things that I learned with the Rachel Impact podcast, one of the things I learned about myself is that having a podcast is very healing and it's very eye-opening. I know that I started my show after my son passed away, exactly the week of his birthday and the year that he passed. And everybody was like, you're going to do what? And I know for me, it was just like a purpose-driven thing. And I wasn't 100% sure of the vision of where it was going to go. I just knew I wanted to start season 1 with context of like a backstory of, hey, I'm a woman, I'm coming to you with broken pieces and I'm trying to make sense of it. But in there somewhere is this brilliant businesswoman, let's just say, or a woman who wants to help other women succeed. But the backstory is I'm coming to you with a broken heart as well, maybe health issues, maybe this. And it became this place, like you said, like almost like a book, chapter by chapter, being able to sort of lay these things out And
Yeah.
once they're out of you, right? Because you go and you pay
Yeah.
for like a therapist. I've only been to one little old guy, counselor guy after my divorce, but
Yeah.
like people pay for like their therapist and all this stuff. It's like, to me, there's nothing more healing than hearing yourself. I think that the healing comes in like hearing yourself get it out and hearing how it
Yeah.
sounds to you. And being able to do that on a public platform like a podcast isn't easy.
Yeah.
But then when you get the feedback, you guys, of women or whoever saying, oh my God, when you said this, that was everything to me because I'm going through that and I haven't been able to break through. And then you go, whoa. See, you lay the
Right.
broken pieces. Don't try to be perfect. If you try to show up pristine, people can't, they might admire it, but they're not going to relate to it. You can't have breakthroughs, right? So you have to kind of lay your breakdowns on the
Yeah.
table. And then those breakdowns, people have breakthroughs with them. And we do
Amen.
that with our relationships, and it's hard to
Oh
do.
no, for sure, for sure. I have a pretty interesting story. I was in a relationship with someone, and we broke up, and I remember that I was a few hours away. I want to say I was in the desert with some friends, but I was taking the breakup a little bit hard at the time, and for some reason I was triggered to pop in the You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast. And in one of the episodes, we talk about let go and let God. And I needed to rehear those statements that you and I are having this open dialogue about breakups to remind myself that it's okay. It's okay to mourn the loss of whoever it was that was in your
Yes.
life.
Yes.
And so to me, I felt that it's like, girl, take your own advice. Like, take your own advice. And so I thought that it was a biggest blessing because it reminded me that when I made that statement, I felt whole. And then as I was listening to it back, I was a bit unsure. I wouldn't say broken crying or anything, but I was a little bit in an unsettled place. And that gave me the motivation to be like, you're going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. And it was us on the platform or on the podcast talking about these things. And
Yes.
it's a beautiful thing, in my opinion.
It really is. Okay, let's get into, so that's kind of like the why, right? A little bit of the why of like, hey, you have this idea. So often you're with your girlfriends, your siblings, like you said, maybe coworkers. Everybody has that one person in their life that you're like, man, we should have our own show. We should have our own podcast. And so you're probably watching this going, yep, I already thought of 3 ladies or whatever it might be that we could sit around the table, red table talk status, and like have a podcast, do a podcast. I'm here to tell you, we're here to tell you it's absolutely positive for you, or it's also absolutely possible for you to do it. It doesn't take a whole lot at first to quote unquote get started, but the journey to actually continuing with it. Let's get into what that looks like. So the woman has an idea. She has an idea to do, maybe it's a podcast about, making, I don't know, whatever in the kitchen. I don't know, whatever it might be. Okay, cats. Let's just say cats. She's like, I'm a cat lover. I'm going to do funny cat content, on a podcast. Great. What do you have to tell that woman who, the journey of like creating content long term? Like, what can you tell them?
Yeah. So I say this about anything really. And I guess I didn't really realize, when I sat down before you and I, said, Rachel, let's do this together. I didn't realize the importance of consistency. That is number one rule. Like if you're going to show up and you're going to do only content about cats, then every Monday at 10 p.m., then your listeners know that every Monday at 10 p.m., there is going to be a new something, whether that's on Monday, once a month, that's every Monday, however it is that you schedule yourself out, that there's always something coming out for the audience. I think that for me, I will tell you, I didn't really give that much thought. I didn't really think that it was, I just thought, okay, put the cameras on, do the podcast, let's go, vámonos, that's it. No, there is consistency. There is a game plan. What exactly is the message every single Monday? What are we teaching? What are we giving? What are the jewels? And so I didn't realize the importance of consistency.
Yeah. Consistency is absolutely key in building a business. It's consistency is key in a relationship, obviously, and it's important for yourself. You know, people who work out like Delia does, it's consistency. Anything that you want to receive results from or benefits from, it requires you to show up consistently. Now, I can tell you this. One of the things when I did Rachel Unpacked that I learned was sitting there every Monday to do my episode. I would literally go to the home office, sit in my podcast chair, put the mic in my face, and like, hello guys, blah 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 blah. Well, let me tell you, after like 10 weeks of that, I realized I don't always feel like it, especially what I was dealing with at the time. I don't always feel like it. Not only that, it's sometimes gloomy out, or I have a business to run. Sometimes people need me. There could be a family emergency. There's life happening. People, my son maybe needed me, whatever. Like at the end of the day, life is happening. So you as women got to get really great, no matter what you're embarking on, to prioritize the thing that you want to do, be it a business or a show or whatever it might be, and to understand it deserves the respect of your time and attention, and that you're protecting it from all the things that are happening in life. How do you do that? Well, when I sat down with Delia, I said, all right, we'll meet up every, once a week for this much time, because I didn't know, being on camera with her, doing a show with another person, I didn't know if the dynamic was going to be like how I experienced, where I was like, I can't be doing this every week. I gotta like record several episodes called batching to get it done. So when I got with Delia, we did it kind of one off. We did one by ones in a sense until
we batched.
Yeah,
and there's things that I recently was having a conversation with someone. They're like asking me about the podcast, and I said, oh, we're actually all filmed out for the end of the year till until we launch again in 2024. So in the year 2022, we were done for 2023. We're talking about November 2022, we were done for 2023. And I think that it just seems like we're just talking and we're having a good time. And by the way, we are.
Yes.
It's fun and it is great and we're laughing. And if you saw the behind the scenes, we're just having a ball. But there are also things that happen behind those scenes, which is buying, the clothes, the jewelry, the hair, the packing our stuff, as we were going to be batching. And so those are the things that I think I didn't really take into consideration, when we sat down for the very first time. That is a little bit of work. It's not the end of the world, but it's like you have to really be intentional, like, okay, I'm going to wear this top with this, because we're going to be filming 5 episodes in one day. And so that is a lot of talking.
A lot of talking. You will have a headache. And then on our show, we sip tequila. And so let me tell you something. You can usually tell if you're listening to like a 4th or 5th episode we filmed that day, or the very first couple. Like you.
Oh my goodness. You can tell. Yeah, I know. I've had a couple of friends are like, whoa, the tequila was creeping, huh? And I was like, small little bitty eyes. And I'm just like, yeah, I just love everybody.
You're like, it's fine. So I'm going to extract a little gem from what you're saying, because this is something that should be on your checklist, ladies. Not only, like we said in the beginning, decide if you're going to do a solo cast and then you do by yourself, or you're going to have people with you. That's something to really decide. And then the other thing you should really decide is if you just want it to be audio or if you want it to be on camera. Because one of the biggest things was Rachel Unpacked was just fully on audio. It still is, although we're doing these special segments that are going to be living inside the CEO platform. I knew that mine was an audio cast. I did do a couple little things with the camera in front of me, and I put them on YouTube for a minute. I think like 5 of them, and I was like, what is this? No one cares. I'm like just sitting in a chair with the mic in my face. But when it came to doing the show with Delia, she had one vision, which included to be on camera and included, more of like a talk show format with our coffee cups and all this kind of stuff, which was great. So that was a newer experience for me to navigate that, to go, okay, when we're batching, now we're batching on camera. Like Delia said, we got to do wardrobe changes. We got to maybe move our hair, do our hair a little bit different, so it just looks a little different. So just that is something for you to consider as you start to get ready to embark on this podcast journey. It's great if you just come out the gate already having a clear vision of what approach you want to take.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, you know, we had our clipboards, another thing that I was mentioning to this particular person, and there's different subjects, you know, we'd come up with the different subjects. And so now you go from this subject and you're, you know, giving gems to speak. And then now you have to get your mind into the next subject and what you plan to give to that subject and how you plan to give your little gems to that other subject. So it's a lot of mental thinking, kind of like, okay, what do I have to give on this particular topic?
Yes.
And go.
So on that, when I did Rachel Unpacked, I did have these worksheets that I created, and then we're going to be offering inside of the probably the tag to this episode inside the platform, the CEO platform. And I'll share my very first worksheet that I had, and I would sit there and I'm like, all right, what's the topic going to be?
Yeah.
And then what's the value add? Like, what are the gems that I need to? Okay, I did that for like 3 episodes. Okay, you guys. And then I just was like, no, I'm going to talk about this topic because I know about this topic.
Yeah.
So when I then got with Delia to create the show, obviously we had to have some kind of common ground. And I was like, all right, what are the topics? And we had a list and we printed out and it was on a clipboard, like Delia said, and it was next to us. And one of the things was at first, like Delia was right, you would say that you would research or whatever. And then I'd say, I'm not. Like I was on this mission that like I wanted to have fresh reactions. Like I didn't want to talk too much to her about the topic ahead of time because I didn't want to miss the genuine reaction to. She says some way out stuff sometimes, and I'm like, and to me that's the gem of it. And my reactions too, I make faces a lot, and I'm more conservative. So I'm like, yeah, we're really out here on the interweb putting this out there, like, but that's the stuff that adds the character and the charm of what we're doing. And so I recognize that it's great to have your topics aligned. Don't put too much pressure to like create a script. Talking points are nice in the beginning until you get comfortable with what the thoughts are and how you express yourself. But with Delia, it was like, she'd say, okay, so today we're going to be talking about this. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, I would get very little because I wanted to save it for like on camera.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that I later just was like, just go, just do it. And then I had a few people say, you know, that know me, they're like, literally the way that you speak is the way that you are. Like I say off the wall stuff. And I think that is what is great. The center between you and I, that, you know, we're really just who we are. It's not trying to alter and trying to be politically correct and saying certain things to please people. And sometimes, you know, people will comment really negative things. And that's another thing, is like the growing of the thick skin. And yeah, I sometimes have to tell myself, get off the ledge, just let it go. Don't reply. But
I was like, we were just talking about that today. So let's get into that a little bit. So we kind of touched in the beginning about the noise, not only our self-talk, but the talk externally we got to get into, because yes, it's really nice, ladies, when you do something and then you have those nice people. Oftentimes it's the strangers that circle around like, oh my God, your episode on this really helped me, gave me perspective or made me laugh or whatever it may be. But oftentimes you're going to have people in your inner circle. Okay. These are people that you know, like, and trust, and love, and they'll have opinions. And it could be, well, why do you talk like that? Well, why are you playing with your hair so much? Well, why is like the audio is like, you know, or well, are you making money? Like people are nosy, they're opinionated, they're negative, and unfortunately they show up as these like loving friends and family members. And it just ain't it. And it can wear at you to the point where I know with Delia, you talk about this for yourself, but I know that with her, there was moments where she'd say, oh, so-and-so was kind of mentioned. And I'd say, you got to get like tools in your arsenal of like what to say back. It's like, you got to have these like little statements that you can throw back at them. It's like not clapbacks, but just, you know, like kind of just like a pre-created, like if they say this, I'm going to say this. If they say this, I'm going to say this, because it's so common for people to just talk crap, so to speak.
Yeah. I think it really boils down to really telling yourself like, what you think of me is none of my business. And if you can get really good about knowing that what that person thinks about you is none of your business, but we are human with feelings.
Yeah.
I do tell myself that sometimes. I'm like, you take it personally. And I've had a lot of messages that are phenomenal, amazing,
Yes.
thank you. But just like I've had those messages that are phenomenal, I've had messages of people trying to break my spirit.
Yeah.
And like you said, you talk too much, or she talks too much, or she plays with her hair, or you play with your hair, or why that? I have more to give. It should be me. And it's like, it can be you if you want it to be. It happens to be me because I chose this.
Yeah.
And so if you can get good at not caring, because if you start to think about the people that you care of what they think, then you're going to stop yourself from ever doing and becoming and just saying, I don't care. I'm going to show up every Tuesday, no matter what you think. And if you don't like it, mute me or unfollow me. It's okay.
I think at the end of the day, I have learned something where there was this woman that was on stage on a TED Talk, and she was launching a pharmaceutical product, and she was at a dinner thing, and I don't know if it was family or friends or associates, but she was sitting there, and they were like, well, so what are you working on? And she goes, oh, she was so excited, and passionate about her patent. And she was saying, oh, I'm developing this, whatever, let's just say it's a weight loss drug. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And the person across the dinner table was like, well, that's never going to work, because people, what about this? And then people are blah, blah, blah. And then, there's so much competition in the market. And like, are you going to make money with that? Like, how is that? So she actually ran it down, like, just like I did, really quickly. And she looked at them and she said, oh, is that what you experienced when you launched your pharmaceutical product?
Hello.
And they were like, well,
yeah.
like, no, and I was like, brilliant. And that's what I talk about. Have those little things in your arsenal that give you the confidence, because what ends up creating the insecurity, I think, in the breakdown when people are coming at you is that you don't know what to say. Like, you don't know how to address it, and you feel like you have to address it. Like, just because they ask a question like, so how much money are you making, doesn't mean you have to answer that question. Like, it's okay to go, oh, what, are you wanting to start your own show?
Right.
Oh, right into politics, man. That's what politicians do. They answer questions.
And they know how to skip around it. Yeah, they know how to skip around it. I think that if I had to really do like a top 5, that would be probably top 1, 2 of people wanting to ask how much money you're making, and at the end of the day, I mean, if you are a plastic surgeon, you wouldn't ask a plastic surgeon. I mean, you assume that they're making a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
You can't ask that. That's kind of personal. And I love that clapbacks that you always come up with, like, why are you planning to start your own podcast? And if Mr. Joe Rogan would have cared in 2009, because I saw the clip, it was crap as crap.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. And if he would have cared, he wouldn't be who he is today.
Yeah.
He continued to show up, and he's on episode, I don't know, 5,000 or whatever it is. And so, I think that if you understand that you're bringing value to the world somehow, and it has nothing to do with the exchange of energy with the money part, the money, in my opinion, eventually follows. But I just think it's just a matter of you understanding that you have gems to give. You have the book, like what we talk about, there's a book in you. So podcasting is similar to that. The messages you can give.
One of the things that, I want you ladies to consider as you're listening to this, or you're watching it inside the platform, and you are thinking, maybe, I am ready to do a podcast. I can batch my episodes. I do want to be on camera, or I don't want to be on camera. The other thing that you got to consider is, what is the purpose of your show? So I knew that because of my research and being in kind of media marketing and all that, I understood that for the niche that I was in, that is a marketing tool. It's not an entertainment tool, although it's consumed like entertainment. I understood that the Rachel Impact podcast is a marketing tool. It's basically packaged up into a show about mindset, wealth, business building, encouragement, and all of these things, which you get the value from anyways, right? But there's also, it creates a platform for me to market my other things that I do, other services, products, downloadables, workbooks on Amazon, the platform now is CEO, the newsletter. There's so many things, and that I get to market on that show because I the audience, all of you ladies are here because you are on the same wavelength of, I want to start a business. I want to get my head straight. I want to get my finances together. You're already, you guys are target audience to then go, well, here's a workbook that will help you with that. Here's another show that can help you with that. Here's another platform. When you decide to do your show, ask yourself, is this going to be a marketing tool, or is this a strictly entertainment tool, or like for entertainment purposes? So You Deserve Fresh Lettuce is an entertainment show about relationships, and it offers value, tangible examples of two women who've been there and done that, and make it fun in the way we communicate it. And so in there's a different way to monetize that than there is to monetize this. So you got to really have that perspective. This isn't like, it's like people that want to do YouTube or do social media, and they'll start posting all random stuff on their account. And there's no, people go to their account and go, okay, why should I follow her again? She's posting her plate at lunch, and then she's doing this. And then there's, okay, now here's the random little piece that I originally wanted to follow her for, but that's not what she's posting about. So you got to get really clear about what you want to do. If then you have success in that lane, you guys, and you build fame or notoriety or a following because of that, now you can take them somewhere else to go. It's like a vlog. It's like, this is my life, a day in the life of, Delia or whatever. Now those people want to know more about you, and then they can see and fall in love. And that's how you get the influencers. That's how you get those YouTubers that are just doing YouTubes about like them doing dishes and like heading out to the store. They didn't usually start like that, right? They did makeup, or they did like now, crime videos, or they did whatever else, right? With a niche audience who then evolved to want to know more about them. So when you're starting your show, just remember to first and foremost decide, what does the outcome look like? If you can identify the end goal, which is, I want to make money, but I want to make money just being an entertainer, okay? Like Joe Rogan, okay? Or Call Her Daddy. You can do that. But if you want to use it as a marketing platform, you can start making money sooner, probably, because you can now offer products, and then they're going to go pay the $25 or whatever it is. So just have that in mind, that if you don't care about the money, you're like, I don't care, I just want to do this, it's fine. That's okay too.
Yeah, that's true too. I think a lot of the time, I will say also, and I know you didn't ask this, but just because you're saying if you just want to do it, and then also you have to understand that we as human beings think that the numbers are going to be reflective of, like, you're going to become an overnight sensation and doing this for a long time, and the numbers aren't reflecting that, and that could be very disappointing on a week-to-week basis if you're seeing the numbers increase. There's people that launch a podcast and they just blow up, like Call Her Daddy. And so, there are things that if you just do it because you are just sharing your thoughts with the world and you're not really caring about those things, then you're just going to show up. And when the numbers show up to kind of meet halfway, then fantastic, let's take it. But if it doesn't happen that way, it may take some time, and you got to be patient. You really have to, the reason why you're doing it has to be bigger than the pain and the frustration of doing it. And Delia's absolutely right. With Rachel Unpacked, it took about 2.5 years, like, for me to see something that I went, this is actually like a year and a half, I should say, where I went, oh, I started to see the traction. But it wasn't until the last year, like the end of 2021, really, I should say, that I was like, oh, we are on to something, and people started noticing. And let me tell you, it doesn't take a lot of people to notice to create an amazing amount of momentum. It just takes the right people to notice to create the amount of momentum. And once the right people notice, I started getting like articles written and stuff like that. But even right before that, so the end of 2021, it was like I was seeing a 500x, and now my audience was small, right? But then it was like, wait, what? Like now I'm going from 5,000 to this many thousands. Like but by the way, in the beginning, it was like 50 people. And then I'm like, oh, I got like 100 people that listen to this episode. And then it's like, oh, there's 200. And then I stopped watching. Then I stopped looking, by the way, believe it or not. I just stopped looking. And I just said, I'm showing up whether they show up or not. Like, I'm just going to keep showing up. So it was kind of irrelevant to me to look at it until I started getting contacted by sort of notable people that I was like, oh, wait a minute, something's happening. Let me see. And then now it's like exploding, and it's doing really well. And it's been a huge blessing.
With
Yeah.
Use or Fresh Lettuce, the challenge is not just the audio, which, by the way, we have listeners in over 28 countries, almost 30 countries, people listening. Amazing. Okay. But we have this beast, okay, that we've included in here, and it is called YouTube. And that beast is this, you know, the memes with the sloth that's like whispering in the girl's ear, all creepy. That is that thing that goes, there's only 50 people watching. There's only 100 people watching. And it's like, what? We got people in 28 countries. And you will have people going to your YouTube going, right?
I know. I actually sat, it's so funny you're saying that, because I was in Mexico, I was in Mazatlan, and you know, I meet some people and I have a card and a QR code, and the guy tells me, and he's like, wow, you only have this many followers on YouTube? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, so what? I'm like, yeah, but we're like on, you know, iHeartRadio, Spotify, this, that, or the other. We're just, you know, we're trying to grow our following on YouTube. And there was a moment there where that kind of did a little something to me. You know, it's the ego kind of is telling you like, wait a minute. And then I was like, it's all right. You know, you know, every person had to start at zero. Yep. And then gain, you know, momentum and traction, what have you. And it happens. And I was like, don't focus on that, you know, just let go and let God and just move on. Like if I allowed that to get to me, it would be a little it could be detrimental depending on how you're self-talking, right? Yes. Just said, it's all right. Well, if you want to listen, subscribe. And if you don't, it's okay. Add one more person. If not, it's okay.
Yeah. You know, I think at the end of the day, you got to remember a podcast is a podcast. It is an audio medium. It just so happens that people are putting that audio medium onto video because because the video is a marketing tool for the audio medium, right? So you got to remember that even Joe Rogan signing $100 million deal or whatever it was, you know, he's not doing that for YouTube. There's clips, right? Because it's a marketing tool, and then you have to head on over to Spotify and listen to it. Now Spotify offers video inside because they're very sneaky when they do their deals that way. Yeah. But I will tell you this, and I told Delia this in the beginning too. When we had 50 people, I said, you got to imagine that those 50 people are sitting in the room right now. Like they're showing up every Tuesday to hear what we have to say. Now we have so much more than that. And even still, the numbers are baby numbers compared to these giants in the market. But to us, I say, if we have 500 people that are showing up every Tuesday in a room, that's a packed house. That's a packed house. It's showing up to hear what we have to say. And so you got to value each and every listener. I don't care if you only have 10 people listening to your show. It's okay. Those 10 people are getting something out of it, and you're helping them in ways that you'll never fully understand. That's right. That's exactly what it boils down to, you know. Exactly. Yes, yes. Okay, so really quickly, let's get into imposter syndrome. I always like to ask this question when it comes to the women that we have on these special segments. We all deal with imposter syndrome on some level, shape, form, or another. Have you dealt with imposter syndrome on this journey? And if so, what have you done to sort of combat that? Yeah, most definitely. I think if I think most people that you talk to will deal with imposter syndrome. And for me, I guess it's like this, it's a self-reflection again, you know, so it is like, why me, or how, or you can't even get it right. And you're trying to give people advice. Like that's always the one thing. It's like, how are you giving people advice when you don't even take your own advice? And I think that's there's a magic part to that. And that is that you understand that you're human, and that you understand that even though you're trying to get it together, you're never gonna fully get it together. Like it's never gonna be 100. You're always gonna have a little missing part. And I think that as long as you understand that maybe I don't have $100 million in my bank account, but that shouldn't be reflective of whether or not I bring value. And so if I can tell myself that, then I can kind of shut that noise. But I think imposter syndrome is a real thing, and I've listened to podcasts on that. I've tried to combat that, and I think it's just really that mean inner self talking back to you, saying, "You're not all that. Do that. That's not true. Why are you lying to people?" And so I think it's just understanding that, everybody brings value and everyone is valuable, and it shouldn't be defined by
what your bank account says.
Yeah, I think too often people have the measure of success, the stick they measure it by is monetary, it's money. And it goes so far beyond that. I will tell you that if you, like those of you that are watching and listening, the consistency is going to separate you from the pack. And what I mean by that is, all throughout my career, I was not the smartest one. I was not the youngest, the prettiest, the thinnest. I never was. I didn't have the highest degrees. Yet I ended up moving up in my career, becoming the person that was essentially leading all those people that maybe I would have looked at as, more capable or whatever, more qualified. And so you have to remember that when you're going to go and do something like this, it's creative, like starting a podcast. Maybe it's in a niche that you think that you can talk a lot about, but maybe it's just you trying to figure it out. Joe Rogan is not a master of that. He is an average Joe, no pun intended, who comes to the table with genuine questions. He's like, I'm genuinely curious about this. And then he has experts on or whoever, right, to talk about it. So when you're coming at this, just remember that if you're authentic and you're just genuinely there saying, hey, I don't got it all figured out, I'm not perfect, you are going to win because you are relatable, but the consistency is going to set you apart. We're top 10, our shows are top 10% in the world of all podcasts, 1.7 million shows and growing, and we're in the top 10%. Why? Because the platforms recognize that we are consistently showing up on to the platform on a very consistent basis, on a very regular basis, not only week after week, month after month, year after year at this point. And so that alone, ladies, that alone will get you in the top 10. That alone will separate you from everyone else. You can have someone that's so brilliant and smart and qualified, but if they don't show up consistently, they don't learn how to batch, they're just like, yeah, I did 10 episodes and it's not for me. Guess what? You're going to win all day long in that category.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I see it more often than not. I think, every so often, within inner circles, you'll hear someone say, I just launched a podcast. They launched the one, and then 2-3 months later, they're quiet, crickets. And so the consistency is going to be the game changer for everyone.
For everyone. Absolutely. So, well, that's all I have. Do you have anything that you want to share with the ladies, maybe from a mother's perspective or just as a woman entering the space, being in business? What should they consider when they're trying to do all the things?
I mean, I think if we're referring back to the podcasting, if that's part of it, that's what we're speaking on. I think that there's no bigger value, in my opinion, than if you have kids, that they see that mom not only does this, but she also finds time to do what she likes. And she really enjoys doing this. And we know that, as morbid as this is going to sound, we know that one day we will perish. And how amazing will it be that, your kids can, pop in a YouTube or pop in like a Spotify show and listen to what mom would have said, or grandkids. And so I think that there's no more value that you could give than them knowing that you'll live on, and you'll continue with whatever advice you would have given them if you were there, and they'd say, like, mom would have done this. So if I had to give a word of advice, it's like that your kids see that everything that mom wants to do, she finds a way to do it. And if that means you wake up at 5 a.m. to start your day, because we got to get ahead of the day, then you do that. And the kids will see that and say, wow, mom really showed up for herself. And then in return, you show up for them too.
Amen. Where can they find you, follow you?
Yeah, so I am on all social media platforms, including YouTube, under Delia_Monarch, Delia Monarch, and that is on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, just about everywhere. And then also on the You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast every Tuesday. And we are on YouTube there also. So yeah, You Deserve Fresh Lettuce or Delia_Monarch.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing that insight. Those of you that are watching, go for it. Just go for it.
Do it. Be like Nike. Just do it.
All right,
All
guys.
right,
See
bye-bye.
you later. Till next week. Cheers.
Till next week. Bye-bye.
If you're new to my content and you want to tap into resources, workbooks, courses, masterminds, a community of like-minded women that can support you on your entrepreneurial journey, head on over to my website, rachelmedina.com, and click any button you see that says CEO, and it'll take you right on over there. In the meantime, if you're not doing so already, please follow me on social media at Rachel Medina 101. Let's go.